Who is responsible for the national debt? The answer lies hidden in plain view. Come see for yourself. The pre-1981 debt was left over from World War II, and we won't unscramble that. But we'll track Reagan and the Bushes, and we'll track Clinton and Obama, and we'll use numbers you can check for yourself by Googling debt to the penny and clicking to the U.S. Treasury. The debt shot up to 120% of national income in World War II, came down to 31% in 1981, and then went crazy. We'll start when it went crazy, in 1981. Click on Historical Debt Outstanding. Here's Reagan's starting debt and Bush's final debt, but these debts are all for September 30th. Why September 30th? Because, for example, Jimmy Carter's last budget lasted until September 30th of the year Reagan took office, and Reagan couldn't change the debt until his first budget started. Reagan's debt started at $1 trillion and Bush Sr.'s ended at $4.4 trillion, for an increase of $3.4 trillion. We assign each president the increase during his budget years, but two corrections are needed. First, debt earns interest. Second, Obama's stimulus spending started during Bush's last budget year. If you borrow, you are responsible for interest on your loan, and presidents who run up the debt are responsible for interest on their excess debt. Reagan and Bush's extra debt added about $0.3 trillion of interest per year to the debt under Clinton. They are responsible for that interest, so Clinton is not responsible for it. But he is responsible for World War II interest, just like Reagan and Bush. So we add up the 8 years of interest under Clinton, and it comes to $2.8 trillion. Only $2.3 trillion of that is from Reagan and Bush. So add $2.3 trillion to Reagan and Bush, and subtract that from Clinton. Not counting the Reagan-Bush interest, Clinton actually reduced the debt and caused no interest. By Obama's term, Reagan and the Bushes had run up $11.8 trillion in debt. That added $0.7 trillion of interest to Obama's debt. Add that to Reagan and the Bushes and subtract it from Obama. Obama got the stimulus bill passed in February, so part of that spending happened before Bush's last budget ended. We must move that spending from Bush to Obama. So click to recovery.gov. The stimulus spending started slowly. So by September 30th, 2009, the end of Bush's last budget, only $36 billion had actually been spent. $36 billion is only $0.036 trillion. I tracked that in my spreadsheet, but it's not enough to make a visible change in Bush's $6.1 trillion. To summarize, $1 trillion is pre-1981 debt. Adding up the parts of the Reagan-Bush's debt, the total is $12.5 trillion. With Clinton's debt reduction, Clinton and Obama's responsibility comes to $0.8 trillion. And these three sum to the total national debt on August 1st, 2011. Here's the total national debt. The red lines show how it increased by $9.5 trillion under Reagan and the Bushes. But the interest from the debt added another $3 trillion to the national debt during the Clinton and Obama years. Their grand total, still growing, is $12.5 trillion. Some say all this was really the fault of Democratic Congresses. For the first 6 years under Reagan, the Senate was Republican. In year one, Republicans passed the budget after Reagan won over the Southern Democrats. The next 5 budgets were passed by both Republicans and Democrats. Altogether, Congress reduced Reagan's budgets by $16 billion, but that was too little to notice. Congress under Bush Sr. was Democratic and reduced his spending requests by $14 billion. In his second year, Bush and the Democrats enacted a bill to reduce the deficit by $500 billion over 5 years. That bill initiated the pay-as-you-go rule. Most Republicans opposed it. We give Bush credit during his last 3 years for this Democratic deficit reduction. George W. Bush promised to retire nearly $1 trillion in debt over the next 4 years, but then the Republican Congress eliminated the pay-as-you-go rule so that they could use the budget surpluses from Clinton for their tax cuts. Republicans passed the first 6 budgets. In 2007, the Democrats brought back PAYGO, and they did not increase spending. One party uses the debt to advance its political agenda and win elections. This will work as long as you don't know who is responsible for the debt. Now you can see for yourself.